Hello and welcome to Sport for Business. I'm delighted that today's daily interview is with Sam O'Byrne. He is content manager at Bank of Ireland, and the bank have been putting out a wonderful series on leadership, which they've recorded with representatives from each of the 4 provinces. When you look back over them, it looks as though they could have been recorded at any time in the last couple of weeks, but clearly they weren't. They were done before the lockdown and before the pandemic took a hold. You're very welcome, Sam. Tell us a little bit about how the programme and how the project came to life.
Thanks, Rob. So we sat down, and the joys of being sponsors of the 4 provinces means we got access and we work well with them. But we sat down with our corporate team and looked at ways that we could utilise that to benefit, I suppose, and tell the story of how what happens on the pitch and what happens in the background with these high-performing teams is actually translatable across all genres of business and industry. So we took that sort of idea and worked it up and presented it to the 4 provinces that we wanted to chat to members of their teams that so they could give us an insight into what really happens, how leadership is a part of what they do in sport, but then try and really dig into it and look at ways that they're utilising their strengths across their teams that is translatable across all areas of business.
Okay. And in terms of the recording, when were they actually recorded?
So, well, as you mentioned, they could have been recorded as recently as a few weeks ago, and a lot of the stuff, looking back as we launched over the last few weeks, is quite timely. We actually started recording before Christmas. The view was to launch them either side of the 6 Nations. We hadn't necessarily decided because we were still in production phase, but obviously things changed, so they went on the back burner, as most things did, especially in the sporting world, over the past number of months. But we had them there sort of in our back pocket, I suppose, and we knew it was good stuff, and we were keeping reviewing the situation externally to see if and when the right time might be to put them out. So as things became, and I don't like using it, but everyone else is the term, the new normal, I suppose, and things settled down a bit, we just sort of said, look, we've got really good content here that we think is still relevant. If people have a look at them, you'll see there's talk of change and how it's really important to be adaptable in certain situations. And I think it's as relevant as ever, especially as a lot of people are now work from home, how you adapt to that. Johan van Graan in his piece speaks about work-life balance and how it can't be 7 days a week rugby for him, but for everyone else, I think it's very easy now, work from home, to sit and let your laptop shut you and go, you could be working, but to be able to establish that balance. So as we looked at it as time went on, we said, look, this is the right time. We had 4 pieces of content there, so we spread it out over 4 weeks. So our last one went up this week with Annie Friend from Connacht. So yeah, that was really it. It was a bit of a watching brief in it, but we thought, look, there hasn't been a huge amount of sport on, and this is relevant for both sports fans and corporate people alike. So that was the idea, and that's why we decided to go over the last few weeks.
And it's very good. You're right, it's timely. I think it's Dan McFarland is talking about how, life is 10% of what you do and 90% of how you react to what happens. Lots of truisms in there. You went with 3 team managers. So you've got Dan, you've got Andy, you've got Johan down in Munster, and Sene Naupu in Leinster. The Leinster women, of course, were getting ready for their big game against the Harlequins, which was going to be taking place in early April. What was the thinking behind making sure that you had a good representative balance across all 4?
Yeah, so we had a look at it, and Sene obviously is brilliant. She really gets it as well from a business perspective. She's her own projects that she's got going on. She's a very busy lady, but at the same time, she's really experienced in the rugby world. She's obviously captaining Leinster. She would have been captain Ireland as well a couple of times across her Ireland career. So from that perspective, we want to get a player's voice as well within it, and we thought that she might fit best just from her experience of being, obviously, the women's team aren't professional, so she is involved off the pitch and businesses and stuff like that. So she could really give an insight in that world. But also there's the fact that I suppose Stuart Lancaster is absolutely fantastic in this world, but he does have his own niche, I suppose. So while he would have absolutely been brilliant and a great fit for this, we just wanted to look to see, when we looked across, we considered the 4 coaches and what have you, but we thought, look, Stuart's got his own piece. I know he does it with a couple of broadcasters, and he's very good on LinkedIn as well. So we thought, look, he's already telling a story. Let's look somewhere else. As we did, and I thought Senia really showed how the leadership she works with on the pitch with the guys, and she's quite good with her experience that she's really helped, I think, with the management and the leadership off the pitch of Leinster within working with the coaches and stuff there. She's really given a good balance. So that was the reason we went with that. And then the three other guys, I mean, they're all coming from different parts of the world, different coaching experience, different outlooks on life. So it was really to try and get a good balance across all of that and just have a different sort of outlook on things. We all asked them quite similar questions, but the interesting thing is they all gave different answers. So I thought that was interesting, but also that was what we wanted. We wanted to get different answers and different sort of outlooks on things. But the funny thing is then you circle in and it all becomes quite relevant when you dig into it as well. And yet I think when you bring it back to a business perspective and you start applying it to the work life, it becomes really relevant.
And it's always the fact that you can take just one little pearl from the content. Each of them are around about 5-6 minutes in length. I think it might be Dan's that runs a little bit longer than that. What were you thinking in terms of that level of optimizing both the reach and the impact of it? So from a content perspective, you've got the raw content. Where do you go then in terms of how to cut, to trim, to edit, and to package and put it out there to the world?
Yeah, so to be fair to the guys, they gave us a great bit of time. We had nearly an hour with all of them, and getting time with those sort of people is pretty difficult. They have very hectic schedules, and they obviously want to be on the pitch and looking at their players and working with their teams, what have you. But they're really good with their time. So we actually left an awful lot of really good stuff on the cutting room floor, unfortunately. But look, as we all know in the content industry and in this world, people have short attention spans. But at the same time, looking at a 5-6 minute piece, we wanted to try and get in as much detail, as much information that was relevant and as possible, but also keeping it something that you can actually digest quickly. 6-7 minutes, it's not going to take up your whole day. And that's why we put it out over a week by week basis. We didn't want to do it all in one go, in that the effect being that you might watch one and not see the next one. We wanted it so that people would be able to have a look each week. And also within that, I mean, the research we did across other sporting areas, sports documentaries, I mean, this would have filmed obviously before the Chicago Bulls piece, but people love sports. People love sports docs. People love hearing sports people. So we didn't want to limit it down to a 90-second piece where you might get one piece of information when these guys are a wealth of it. Like, I mean, sitting in on the interviews in the background, listening, I was just there nodding the whole time because so much of, they just know so much about the area of high performance and high performing teams. So to bring it down, we nearly 45 minutes, and to bring that down, I think we took the best we could, and also tried to keep, as I said, we asked them all the same questions, but to try and vary it so that there was different elements that could be spread across different areas of business. So we thought the 6-7 minutes, while it's longer than most pieces usually would be in this day and age, it's good, valuable content that we hope people will enjoy and digest and can take a few tidbits from it and bring it into their working life.
It's all about niche, isn't it? That if you're speaking to the right audience, that right audience just wants to consume as much as possible. So this one might not be for the season ticket holder at Leinster who just wants to watch the rugby and wants to watch the games, but somebody in business, pretty much like our own audience as well. What was the editing process like, working from remotely? Like, would that have been something that you would have been hands-on with the production team, you know, sort of just watching the clock counters and things like that? Is it easier to do it on a remote basis, or was that a challenge?
Yeah, fortunately, we had a good bit of it done before lockdown and stuff happened. There was some fine tuning and bits, and then obviously as we came out the other side, we had to send it back to the guys to review, and some of the things changed within it. So we did have to do a small bit of tweaking. I suppose personally, from my previous experience at the IRFU and being on the road with the sevens and stuff, I would have been quite used to working remotely. I think personally, working out of hotels on my previous life, I remember sitting down going, I've actually been doing this for a while. It actually seems a bit easier than it might be for most. So for me, like, I'm used to doing that. But I mean, everyone's adaptable. The guys who worked with were brilliant. The provinces supplied us footage, or if they didn't have specific stuff, they granted great access back when we were filming. So it was more about just collating all that together, which can be a challenge because you're trying to match different pieces of footage and bring it all back together. But No, the guys we worked with were really good in Red Square Media, the provinces, and then our production company, Oliver, tied it all together for us. So, I mean, I can understand where there will be challenges as well remotely. Ideally, you'd love to be sitting in an editing suite going, yeah, leave that in, leave that out. And it adds layers to the process and makes it a bit more drawn out. But I think it's funny to be adaptable as one of the themes in it. But I think everyone involved adapted quite well to it. And as you'll see with everyone else who's producing and putting out content across different industries at the moment, it's just the way we are. And it may be the way we're going to be for the next while. So it's just part of it now.
It is very much. I think you're right. The Michael Jordan documentary kind of kicked off a whole debate about content from off the pitch as opposed to on the pitch. And it felt for some time as though there was an inevitable move towards that you love the live content, but it's not on 24/7 all the time, and that there is a demand to fill. I know over the weekend it was the start back of the Formula One season. I'm sure that the audience there is bigger as a result of the Drive to Succeed, the Netflix documentary there as well, which gets you inside. Is that something which Bank of Ireland has been doing over the last number of years? Is that something that you see as part of the relationship as being an important element of it, both from your point of view, but also from the provinces in the months and years to come?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, what happens on the pitch happens on the pitch. It's one of the things that my previous sporting world, I used to always say, like, I can't control what happens there. You'd make the content around what goes on and adapt as required. So as things move forward, and I think with potentially empty stadiums at the moment, to become even more important what happens off the pitch, and utilising relationships and things you have there, and looking at different ways of doing it, getting creative. It's a challenge that everyone will be facing over the next while. You see it at the moment with football and stuff. It's remote interviews from post-match and things, which is interesting. And I mean, I suppose when you look at things like that, is that the way forward? Is that the way things will be even when people are allowed back in? That it means you don't have to be putting costs into getting people to stadiums and stuff. I know it's important, especially from a media perspective, to be there and absorb the atmosphere and really get a feel for it. But I can see people looking at that and going, look, this is how we're going to progress forward. It's probably more cost effective and more time effective in some respects. So it's really interesting. I've obviously come from a background where I was on the sidelines, so it's what I know, but it's something that I think will become more and more topical, and something that will be looked at as we move forward. I think there'll be a balance of that as we move on. I think some aspects will stay as they are, because people have seen that you don't necessarily have to be jumping on planes, jumping in cars to get to places. You can do stuff more remotely. But then at the same time, especially in the sporting world, we're in sports because we love it. We love the buzz. We love being there. We love feeling the players, like what happens on the pitch, the atmosphere from the crowd and things. So it's interesting times. No one knows what it'll be like in the future, but I do think, yeah, there'll be changes certainly around how content is produced, how media is reported, all that sort of stuff. So it'll be really interesting to watch how things progress.
It will, and we're all in that game, and at least by knowing it is something that we have to do, then it is something that we get done. Resilience, teamwork, collaboration, all of the themes that feature in the Leadership Rugby Insights programs, all 4 of them, which are available now on the Bank of Ireland website and which you can find on the Sport for Business website as well. It's been a pleasure to talk to you as always, Sam. The very best of luck with when rugby comes back and as we move back into the world of more normal working. And no doubt we will be talking again pretty soon. But for now, thanks very much to Sam O'Byrne.
Thanks a million, Rob.